I'm Josh Light with PoliticIt.com here in Massachusetts with Dan Fishman, Libertarian candidate for District 6, U.S. Congress. How you doing, Dan?
Good to see you, Josh. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks, Dan, for having us. So tell us the big differences between you and your competitor in this race.
The biggest difference is that the two people I'm running against are a Republican and a Democrat. I'm a Libertarian. I'm not beholden to any party. I haven't accepted any corporate money. I'm running really on a shoestring budget, and I'm doing it because I think that we get the government that we pay for. And right now, the government is being paid for by the corporations. One of the things I like to say is that in the beginning, corporation was a construct of government. It allowed people to take risks in business, but not lose their house if their business failed. So in the beginning, government made the corporation. What's happening now is corporation is making the government. And we need to change that. And that's what's different between me and the other two candidates.
How has your experience prepared you for Congress?
I'm a former special education teacher. I'm currently a software architect. I've never run for anything before in my life. My experience that prepares me for Congress is being a U.S. citizen, being actively interested in my community, being actively interested in the well-being of our larger community, and representing and understanding the idea that a representative is tied inherently to the people in his district. I actually was asked to run for Senate for Libertarians in Massachusetts. I declined that because I wanted a chance to touch base with my community, with the people that I'm involved with. On a small scale, government is responsive. And what we need to do is find a way to make government work at a smaller scale.
When you're out in District 6, you're talking to people, what fiscal issues are they concerned about?
The number one thing is that there's a complete disconnect right now between how Congress is managing its budget and how people in the district are managing their budget. If the money's not there, we shouldn't spend it. And I recognize that Democrats feel like the Republicans are being extremely obstreperous and blocking everything that they try to do in Congress to raise revenue. But they need to wake up to the reality that if they can't raise the revenue, they shouldn't then borrow the money to spend it. We need to find a way to live within our means, and we're not doing that right now. And that's the number one thing that people say to me, especially in Massachusetts in the Northeast District. We have a huge fishing industry, and that industry has been very hard hit. And we're dealing with a lot of federal regulations that are making it even more difficult for the people who live there and work there to get along. The number one thing that they say is, how come I have to balance my budget and Congress doesn't have to balance its?
Dan, when you're in District 6, what social issues are people concerned about?
District 6 is unique in that right now we have a Republican who's running who's very different from the run-of-the-mill Republicans. Richard Tassay is an out gay male. He helped to author the marriage equality laws that passed in Massachusetts. I am very strongly in favor of complete equal protection under the law for everybody. So I applaud the idea that any legal benefit that's out there should be applied to everybody. So in terms of social issues, one of the things that differentiates us is that I am in favor of ending the prohibition on marijuana. I think that at this point in time, we've come to a realization that adults ought to be allowed to do what they want as long as they're not interfering in other people's lives. And certainly in terms of smoking marijuana, in terms of possession of marijuana, we've seen that the laws don't stop it from happening. So we could make a big difference in terms of the number of people in jail, the number of people that we need to use in terms of law enforcement, and the quality of our law enforcement by saying, you know what, a joint shouldn't throw you in jail. 3 joints shouldn't throw you in jail. We ought to have a situation where we recognize that we can be tolerant of what people want to do in their own homes. And in many respects, marijuana is the same issue as women's right to choice. It's the same issue as gun control. In your private lives, you should have as much liberty as the government can give you without infringing on somebody else's liberty.
What's your opinion on universal health care?
So I don't believe that health care is a right, and I want to explain why I say that because it's a very charged phrase. The reason I don't believe that is because I don't believe you have a right to anybody else's labor. And health care is provided to you by somebody else's labor. So at no point in time should we say a doctor is required to work 16 hours a day to meet all of his patients, or a nurse or a hospital or anything like that. I do, however, believe that providing health care is a duty of society, and we absolutely should find a way to provide health care for the people who need it. However, one of the things that's happening right now with Medicare is that Medicare is a limitless system. If you get to the stage where you need Medicare to cover all the rest of your bills, it will. And there's a problem with that because it ties back into our financial spending issues. There's not enough money to cover everything. When Europeans first came to this country, we cut down the trees, we dumped our trash in the river, we mined the mountains, we treated the world like it was an unlimited resource. The problem with that is that it's not. And as time went on, we began to realize we need to find a way to protect these resources. We need to find a way to conserve them so that we can use them, but that they're there for other people. Healthcare is the same way. It's a valuable resource. We have to find a way to conserve healthcare so that it's available for everybody who needs it, but it's also going to be there for future people. You can think of me as the Sierra Club of healthcare. I want to find a way to conserve it and make sure that it's there for everybody.
We were looking at your IT score, which is your online influence, your digital influence, and you have a pretty good score considering you're not an incumbent. How are you working to improve that?
I use Google Apps, which I think is an invaluable tool for anybody who wants to run, especially if you're running a small campaign like I am, because Google Apps gives you, in addition to voice, which allows you to have your phone calls answered automatically, transferred to wherever you want, gives you a transcript to voicemail of any phone calls that you get. You also have documents, so you have the ability to create high-quality press releases. It gives you a very sophisticated website, gives you the ability to put your donate buttons, tie in anything that you would want out of a website into your Google site thing. It's easy to add in other users, so I can easily create, I want to say it's $5 a month for every user that I want to add in. So I have a friend who's an artist. I was able to, spend $5 and have him come in and do a much better job on my logos and stuff like that. And again, all those documents are in there. So as a central repository, it's fantastic. Not to mention, sophisticated email, best of class. It's essentially Gmail. And then obviously, I use all the other sites as well. I have a Facebook campaign page. I have a Twitter campaign account. I'm using Fundly for my online fundraising. And one of the things that I intend to do to change the score and to increase it, to answer your original question, is I think that I can make better use of my email contacts. One of the things that I haven't been doing, because I'm a software guy, is that I haven't been emailing people as much as I should. And somebody mentioned to me, they said, listen, people gave you their email addresses understanding that you were going to email. So don't be afraid that you're spamming people by sending them email. They want to be kept up to date on the campaign. And it's more of a push. It's more of a way to get into people and say, this is what's happening right now, instead of requiring them to come to my page. So those are the things I think I can do that can really change things.
How's your campaign going, Dan?
Remarkably well. We are at 6%, 7% with leaners, which, considering that we have done no advertising at this point in time, is a shockingly high number. Also, the crosstabs showed that I am at 60% people haven't heard of me yet. So I'm going to all 5 debates. We have 5 debates scheduled so far, and we may do even more. I'll give the ambulance a second. So we have 5 debates scheduled in the district right now. One of them actually right over there at Fox 25. And I'm going to all of them. They're all going to be televised. And that's going to really help me get my name out there. So if you extrapolate the fact that I'm at 7% right now, with 60% of people not having heard of me, if I can get up to 100% of people here having heard of me, that's 18%. That's a real number. And especially considering the fact that this is considered one of the biggest House district races, because the Republican and the Democrat have tremendous money behind them. John Tierney had an enormous scandal. The incumbent had an enormous scandal break where his wife went to jail for 30 days for money laundering. I mentioned this to the Gary Johnson campaign, and they said, that's actually not a good thing for you, because we have a statistic that shows that Democrats who have been accused of a crime have a higher elected rate than Democrats who haven't been accused of a crime. So that being what it is, the Republicans, the National Party, sees this as an excellent chance to flip the seat. And so they're putting a lot of money behind Richard Tassay. Tierney's not going down without a fight. 8-term guy, a lot of money, seasoned campaigner. He's returning the blows. They are really killing each other at this point in time in the media, and I expect it to get worse. It's only September. For me, I'm happy to be sort of the other guy. In many respects, I think that the campaign might have a slightly more cordial tone because of the fact that I'm able to be out there and say, listen. In fact, I wrote an article about this saying, it's okay to make other people aware of the facts. I think that it's important that an electorate has an informed decision about the stuff that you want to say. But recently, the Tierney campaign attacked Richard Tassay through some business dealings of his 12-year dead father. I just felt like that was sort of over the line at this point in time. And although Tassay and I disagree on many things, and I don't want to seem to be an apologist for him, I just think that we can find a way to inform the electorate of the issues without really bringing that personal element into it.
Dan, where can people go to learn more about you?
My website is www.fishmanforcongress.com. You can email me at info@fishmanforcongress.com. There's a Facebook page, and I'm available all the time. I answer my phone myself. I answer most emails myself.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks a lot, Josh. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming to Boston.